Everybody, welcome. It's so nice to be here. Lisa and I are sweating because there's been some technical issues behind the scenes. Lisa didn't have the thing to join, so I'm panicking because Lisa's not here. Lisa's panicking because Lisa's not here. And then I realized in my ignorance, I really meant to start us at the top of the hour. But because I was trying to be prepared, I scheduled it for 10:02. I'm seeing Lynn Taylor saying 7:50 is an odd time to start. It is an odd time to start. It's totally odd. We're planning on starting at the top of the hour. And in fact, we are going to start at the top of the hour. What you're looking at now are two hosts desperately filling in a few minutes of time to allow people to get here on time. So welcome to all of you coming through. I already love the comments that are coming in, so that's wonderful. And maybe while we're waiting for others to join us, why don't you tell us where you're coming from? I know it's the classic LinkedIn Live office hours opening question. It's like, where around the world are you coming from? Lisa, first of all, welcome. It's so nice to see you.
In our panic. Yeah, hi, everybody. I always love LinkedIn Live, seeing where everybody is from and who they are. And every time it just so happens that I see somebody I know or several people I know. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Lisa, where are you based?
I'm in Ashland, Oregon. So in the Pacific Northwest, which is
very nice. Well, I'm normally based in Toronto, Canada. So this would normally be at 3:00 in the afternoon for me there. And it's beautiful. It's summer there. The trees are green. It's wonderful. But right now, I'm actually visiting Australia. So I'm in Melbourne, Australia. It is 5 a.m.
Oh my God!
I'm in an Airbnb kitchen somewhere. I've got this terrible setup with a bad camera, and my mic didn't work, even though I carried it all the way down, and my lighting's weird. So this is like,
there you go.
This is not the quality I'm going for, and I'm hoping the other people in the other apartments aren't being woken up by some random dude shouting at 5 a.m. in the morning. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see how it goes. So we've got Dayton, Ohio. One of my favorite songs is about Dayton, Ohio. Newfoundland, Tammy.
Wow.
Tammy Shepherd, I know and love. She helped me launch my new book, How to Begin, which is a little bit what this is about. Oman, wonderful. New Jersey. Ernest Oriente. If you can see Ernest Oriente's name there, Ernest Oriente was my coach for 15 years.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine how patient you have to be to coach me? Not just for a short period of time, but for 15 long years. And I'll tell you why I hired Ernest. I hired Ernest because he was one of the few people who didn't fall for my BS. Perhaps this is new thinking about coaching for you, but I'm going to just share it right now. I think we are all slippery in our own ways.
Oh, yeah.
We all want to be coached. We all don't want to be coached. And those two tensions exist within us. We're like, I'd love somebody to help me out. And then you're like, I'd like to dodge and weave the really hard things. And I am slipperier than most. I mean, honestly, I'm like an oiled up wrestler. I mean, hard to get a grip on me at all because I know lots of the tricks. But Ernest was one of the few people who was like absolutely positive, absolutely encouraging, absolutely would not fall for any of my tricks. So he was a brilliant man to work with. So, and it's lovely to see you. Washington, Auckland, New Zealand, 7 a.m. Hi, Fiona. I'm going to be in Auckland in about a week's time. So I'm hoping I'll see you at the coach chapter session I'm doing there. A little bit of Toronto, a little bit of Houston. Are you seeing anybody there that you know, Lisa?
I haven't so far. I think I recognize Lynn Taylor here.
Fantastic.
Lynn Taylor.
Guatemala, Vancouver, some nice Canadian content coming through there. Las Vegas. I got married by Elvis in Las Vegas. Well, remarried by Elvis in Las Vegas. I got married originally in Oxford to my wife, Marcella. Just celebrated 27 years married just the other day. And we went down about 8 years later and got remarried by Elvis. I wore a suit made out of something called polydenim. It looks like denim. It's made out of plastic. Honestly, I put it on, and in the Las Vegas heat, I lost about 25 kilos of water immediately.
I guess so.
But it was undestroyable, that suit. It was quite impressive.
That's fine.
Anyway, lovely to see so many of you coming in. It's 1 minute past, Lisa. We've said we're going to keep this to 27 minutes, plus the 3 minutes of random light entertainment that we've just been providing. We're going to kick it in. Look, we're going to introduce ourselves more formally in just a second. But before we get going, we're going to blow up the chat in this 27 minutes. I want to ask you a question right away. And I need to see your answers in the chat if you wouldn't mind. And the question is this. Scale of 1 to 7, 1 is low, 7 is high. How focused do you plan to be over the next 27 minutes? How focused do you plan to be? And, you know, I ask because we're all a bit tired of the screen experience. We all know how distracting and distractible we are and how distracting life is. You've shown up. You've not only signed up, but you've shown up. You not only showed up, but you were patient while Lisa and I got the technology working. On a scale of 1 to 7, how focused do you plan to be? And, you know, 1 is, honestly, I'm just going to get a whole lot of email done while I vaguely listen to what Michael and Lisa is going to talk about. 7 is I'm bringing real attention to this. And I don't actually mind what number you give yourself. What I care about is that you now make one adjustment to your environment so that it gives you the better chance to hit the number you reach. So if you're hitting a 6 like Margaret, or a 5 like Anara, or a 5 like Permjot, or 5.5 like a LinkedIn user, what do you need to do to adjust your environment? I know for me, what I need to do is I need to put my phone out of reach. That is the primary thing. Put my phone out of reach. Maybe shut down a tab or two. Maybe put on noise cancelling headphones. Maybe shut a door. Maybe just put some paper from your desk onto the floor for now, removing distractions. Let me check in with you, Lisa. How focused are you planning to be over the next 24 minutes?
Well, I hope I'm a 10. Let's just hope. You know, the 2s that, you know, I like the 2s because they're honest, or 3s, you know, listening at work, you know, where they might not have permission, or, you know, the area, they might be in an open plan and a little bit hard to focus. So thanks for the honesty on that.
I'm not trying to bully you into hitting a 7. I'm trying to have you claim an intention. And, you know, if you're looking for a coaching tool, you may have heard this already, but I start all of my sessions online and in a group or one-to-one with a checking question. How focused do you plan to be? How engaged do you plan to be? How much risk are you willing to take? How open are you willing to be? Because most people, when they show up to start something, haven't really checked in with themselves about how they intend to show up and start something. And what you're doing in that brief moment, that brief question, is you're creating the start of a social contract. Here's how we're going to work with each other. Yeah. And it actually increases the likelihood you're going to have a good conversation. I've increased the likelihood you're going to get more out of this session by asking you, how do you want to show up? How focused do you want to be? I've got a second thing that I'd like you to ask in the question, in the comments. You know, Lisa and I are going to share some of our new thinking, our best thinking on coaching and goal setting. But I want to tap the wisdom in the room. We had 300 people sign up for this. I'm not sure how many people are here now, but a bunch. And a bunch will be watching this later. In the comments, and this is going to become an incredibly valuable archive right away. In the comments, what's your best coaching tool or goal setting tool? Like, if it was you teaching this, what would you share with us right now? And it might be one that is well known and you're just like, it's well known because it's genius and I love it. It might be that you're like, I've just come across this, or I'm just trying it out, or this is the thing that when I was being coached made the difference, or this is the thing that when I was goal setting has kind of twisted my head around how I think about goal setting. But share the best you've got. Don't be shy. Even if you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm sure everybody's seen this, heard this, thought of this, I'm not even sure if it's any good. Be generous. To us all out. Lisa.
The coaching habit, it just popped up, which I find fascinating. that she's going to use all 7 questions in order to focus people.
Look, I immediately love people who are sucking up to me by asking, right, like Joyce going, and what else? That's great. Thank you, Joyce. Berna coming and being present. Oh yeah, A More Beautiful Question by Warren Burge, a wonderful book. He's a lovely man as well. I've talked to Warren a few times. Sama, the development pipeline, excellent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to see a bunch of good
Listen.
ideas coming through here. I appreciate your sharing this.
Oh, I like this one from a LinkedIn user. Knowing the difference between outcome and process goals, or the sort of incremental
Oh my God, that's
milestone.
everything. That is everything. And in fact, we're going to talk, maybe we'll touch on that a little bit about when I'm talking about the goal setting piece in particular, because I'm very pro setting a very bold outcome and then kind of almost ignoring it because your commitment's to the process, not to the outcome. What I'm doing actually is I'm actually teaching you another coaching tool, another coaching essence. And the coaching is this, which is like, be lazy. If you're coaching, be lazy. So many of us are working too hard when we're coaching somebody, whether that's as a formal coach or whether that's as a kind of just a coach-like relationship. And you can see that I'm being lazy by getting you to do a bunch of work for us all. And I think it's counterintuitive. It's provocative, I know, but when you say be lazy, what you're doing is you're actually saying, I'm going to step back and trust the other person to step up, to think, to engage, to struggle, to sweat, to wrestle with it. All right, let's jump into this and let's make some formal introductions. Lisa, who are you?
Wow,
People
who
know about
am
you.
I? I'm a person who values people who present like you. Um, but beyond that, let me say I'm the owner of Story Happens Here, and the mission of my company is to help women be seen, heard, promoted, and paid. And for prior to that, I ran She Negotiates for about 10 years. So that's kind of the nutshell of who I am and what I do. But I focus
Yeah,
on coaching and executive women.
you do. And you have a number of LinkedIn Learning courses.
Yes.
Can you just give us a hint? I've got one of them streaming down below your name there, but give us a hint at some of the other stuff that you teach through LinkedIn Learning.
I have the first course I did was negotiation fundamentals.
Mm.
And then I did coaching and developing employees, which is one of the most popular courses on LinkedIn on coaching. Then coaching for results is really working with three different kinds of performers.
Yes.
Conflict resolution, fundamentals, and asking for a raise. Those are my
That's
5
beautiful.
courses. Yeah.
I need to take your asking for a raise course. And to
Give
introduce
yourself
myself,
a
I'm Michael
raise.
Bungay Stanier. I'm probably best known for a book called The Coaching Habit. My new book is called How to Begin, or it kind of blows out a bit in the light here. Nope, it doesn't work. Trust me. There we go. There's How to Begin, which amongst other things is around goal setting. And it's hard. It's how do we unlock our greatness by working on the hard things. And part of why we're running this session today is that my first LinkedIn Learning course on goal setting, bold new thinking on goal setting, is just gone live. And I think it's free for the first 24 hours. So I'm kind of celebrating that by teaming up with Lisa.
And that's launching today. Yeah.
That's launching
Yeah.
today. I think it's gone
Yeah.
live. I think I've just seen a note from the team there going, it's live. So I'm excited to see it. We filmed it in my office and we had a lot of fun playing around with 3 different cameras. It was kind of
Oh, that's great.
great fun. So Lisa, you as you say, you kind of got known early on by your knowledge around negotiation, but your thinking's evolved since then.
Yeah.
Why don't you bring to us how you're thinking about the work you do at the moment, and in particular, a coaching tool or a coaching approach or a new way of framing coaching that's going to be helpful for the folks listening in?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the 10 years that I was working with She Negotiates as co-founder, I started to notice these patterns and kind of a pernicious pattern among my clients, and that was kind of an unwillingness or an inability, sometimes both, to really know your value and own your value in
Uh,
terms of speaking up about yourself and being able to draft a narrative and speak a narrative that speaks to your strengths, kind of your superpowers and what you bring to the party in a way that's beneficial to your conversation partner or to your
Right.
negotiation partner, right? This was incredibly difficult. And in
I'm
part,
going to interrupt Lisa if I can, because I already love what you're saying, which is, first of all, not only have your own narrative, that's helpful. Not only know that you need to have a narrative in different contexts, that's helpful. But the thing that I'm loving with what you're saying is do it in a way that's helpful for your other partner. That's
yeah,
kind of what's mind blowing, because actually, most of us, when we're talking our own narrative, it's like, it's me, me, me. But
right,
you're
right.
actually go, how do I do this in service?
Right. It's starting with something like, here are the strengths and outcomes I typically produce. But when I think about the goals of your company, this company, or whoever you're speaking with, it could be your boss, it could be somebody up the stream. Yeah, understanding what their interests and needs are is tantamount to you being able to sort of pivot to your narrative to their needs. But
Mm,
that narrative is also something that's valuable for networking or building your influence inside or outside the company. It's also something that you might use for your LinkedIn profile or your
right.
headline. And the thing that it does, the biggest benefit, is that it elicits more questions, which more curiosity on the other person's part. They're going to ask you to tell them a story at some point, like, tell me more about X, or tell me about how you do blah blah blah.
Can you give me an example of what a narrative looks like or sounds like, or how you might construct it? Because narrative is a kind of big word. It's a 10-cent word. What do you mean by having a narrative?
Okay, it's really a short statement. I often call it a superpower statement that
Ooh,
include
love that.
that comes from investigating kind of your common themes, your repeating themes, and really understanding those two or three things you're always counted on to deliver. So, I excel at leading teams through difficult challenges and change in the workplace.
Right.
And now I might go over and say, add to that, when I think about your goal to transform this, company X, in terms of, I'm not sure what I would say, but I think my skills would help you make that transformation.
Got it.
And right. And then they're going to ask you a question. They're most likely going to say, how do you do that? And you're going to be able to tell
Right.
a story. So
Love
that's,
that.
yeah.
Um, how do you uncover your narrative or uncover this sort of? I really like this kind of superpower statement, which is like, here's my superpower.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this also, Lisa. I can add a two for question. How do you make sure that it doesn't feel like every I have a superpower statement, and every statement I make looks like a nail to my hammer? In other words, whatever you say, I'm like, well, luckily, I'm a blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah. I like it when I like to avoid things like having language like, and I have a proven track record of, right?
Mm,
Any of those sort of memes and phrases that are very common and ubiquitous. But really, how you get to it is to take a look backwards, go this month backwards or this year backwards, and then maybe 5 years backwards and look at um, everything that you've accomplished, and you want to specifically look at what is the impact you delivered, what were the percentage change, the results that you produced,
yeah,
and we look through that to discover, what does it look like you value, who are you really, what do you bring to the party, and what are the strengths you lean on every day, and also, what are the repeating themes that, when you're really being honest with yourself, that you no longer want to engage in because they're holding you back? They're stopping you from achieving a goal, right? So all of that language, I usually do this in a question form where they're writing the
yes,
answers to this. So then I can see patterns and phrases and lovely collections of words that help them pick those out and use them in a superpower statement.
It's a really powerful exercise to kind of look back and see what are the repeating stories and the repeating themes. I've just been doing a tiny bit of that myself, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been banging on about the same things forever. Now that I'm an old man, I'm like, I've been literally talking about trying to unlock people's potential and save the world for 25 or 30 years now. And I'm like, oh, I think I saw a quote from my book, Do More Great Work, which I published in 15 years ago. Somebody pulled out a little extract, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's the same stuff that I keep talking about even today. It's a repeating thing. Lisa, it sounds when you frame this, it's like almost like a part of a sales conversation. But my sense was that this is actually useful beyond just the let me close a deal with you.
Well, it is a little bit like marketing or personal branding, right? And you do have to have a hold of yourself, to really own your intrinsic value and your market value, and sort of your potential, your future potential. So, and this also goes to goal setting. How, if you know where you're headed, even if you don't know, if you create a narrative, this is going to help you discover, oh, this is what I'm up to.
Yeah.
And also, we haven't talked about this, but one thing I worry about, when setting goals, is just the Bs tyranny of goals, right? Like the overwork that it produces, and the clarity we need to have about ourselves so we can pursue that one goal. Right.
I'm going to pick up on that and use that as a segue, because when we were prepping for this, you used that phrase. You went, the tyranny and the BS of goal setting, and I'm like, oh, great! I've just written a book on how to set a goal, and I just ruined it all. I'm not sure. Tell me about how you see that, because I'm going to teach around this. Because I love that you've stirred this up, because I actually agree. I think there's a way that goals can weigh us down and crush us and be used as a stick to beat ourselves up with, rather than to unlock our greatness. And I'm trying to shift some of that. But when you say goals have a tyranny to them, what do you mean by that?
I think that, well, I'm going to just say, I'm not saying... I've done this thing all my life, or all my working life, where I've set a goal. I actually take my book and I go to the back of my book. And this is what I steal by calling my second brain, which is a friend. So I'll write my goals in the back of the book. And usually it's just 2 or 3 for the year, right? But I know, and like you said, I ignore it from there because I know what they are and I know what I'm committed to. And what organically shows up is, if I were to look at those goals a year, at the end of the year, I go, fuck, I did that. And I did that. Oh my God, I did that. Well, how did I do that? Was because I didn't torture myself with saying, well, I also want to run a marathon, so I'm going to, run every day. And plus, I need to be more diligent about calling my family. So I'm going to do 1 phone call a day to friends and family. It's just like this tyranny. Yeah. And I think if you're focused and you know what that one call is, I think then all the sub goals, or the things flow from that. Yeah.
Well, let me talk a bit about that and do a little bit of teaching around this, because you know what, I'm agree with you. One of my first tools that I learned in coaching was the wheel of life. There's like 8 different sections of your life, and you're subpar in all of them.
Yes.
You're better in all 8 of your spokes of life. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted just maintaining my subparness. How am I going to lift my game across all of these things? And somebody gave me a useful metaphor the other day. He said, look, actually, your life's a little bit like a stovetop. I'm actually in some person's kitchen at the moment. There's a stovetop right over there. And this is an Airbnb that I'm in. And it's like, you know what, you've got 3 hobs. So you can have as many saucepans as you like, call those different areas of your life, but you've only got 3 hobs. you've got a limited amount of gas or heat. You have to decide what to put on your hobs and make some choices around that. And actually, that's part of what How to Begin is about, this new book, and also the new LinkedIn Learning course that I've created around goal setting. And it starts with this idea of don't set thousands of goals, but set a worthy goal. And I actually think that a worthy goal, you can probably take on one at a time. You're really claiming this to be the most important thing for you to focus on. So sure, there might be some sort of everyday goals that you might want to focus on. I want to eat less chocolate, or I want to exercise more. But a worthy goal has three key components to it. It needs to be thrilling, and it needs to be important, and it needs to be daunting. Thrilling, important, and daunting. And I'll just unpack those a little bit, and then I'm going to make the key teaching point around goal setting that I think is most crucial. Thrilling is, does it light you up? Do you get excited about it? Do you rub your hands and go, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to be working on? It kind of gets my heart beating a little faster. And I do think that one of the tyrannies of goals is we feel like we have to. I have to do this, do that, do this, do that. And it can be exhausting and a heavy load to carry, a tyranny, as you so beautifully put it. The important element, Lisa, is to go, how do I make this actually more than just me? You know, there's a quote from a woman called Jacqueline Novogratz, who I love, which is like, how do I give more to the world than I take? So how do I think about how does this goal make my world a little better? Whether your world is your family or your community or your team or your organization or your country or the world, how do I make this, my world, a little bit better? And what I think that does is it helps make it not the worst of self-help, where it's all a bit solipsistic and all about me, 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 me.
Yeah.
And then the third and the final element of this kind of triangle of elements to make up a worthy goal is it daunting? Does it actually take you to the edge of who you are and who you want to be and who you are right now? And what I find is that these aren't additive, but they're in tension with each other.
Yeah.
Thrill will always have a tension with important, because you're trying to find the balance between how does it serve me and how does it serve the world. And daunting is always there, because you can do thrilling and important, but not learn and grow. But you want to be trying to maximize and optimize for all three of those different elements. Now, one of the things that there's a process for setting a goal and drafting it and redrafting it. And that's actually a big part of the LinkedIn Learning course that I've just launched. But the second part of the book has 3 parts in it. The second part of the book is actually a conversation around what does commitment look like? And I think this is actually the key learning point I want to make. First of all, to realize that when you make a choice, every choice has prizes and punishments. There's my little prizes sign, there's my little punishment sign. And when you are at the crossroads of choosing a worthy goal, you have 2 choices. I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. They're both valid choices. But what we often don't do when we're goal setting is pause for a moment and go, am I really up for this? Am I really up to commit to this? Am I really up for the opportunity cost that this goal, the price that this goal will extract? Because it will give you, but it will also cost you when you pursue a goal. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to think about the prizes and punishments of 2 things. First of all, and this is the obvious one, the prizes and punishments of doing the worthy goal. What are the pros of doing this? What are the cons of doing this? Because there's risk involved. But this is my key teaching point. I think you want to look at the pros and cons, the prizes and punishments of the status quo. Because, and this is, it sounds obvious when I say it, but my goodness, I don't think we realize this often enough. The status quo has an extraordinary pull, has an extraordinary weight. It will keep tugging you back. And if you've ever taken on a worthy goal, something big, you'll just know how easy it is to step off that and go, oh, too hard, too much. So I want you to, when you think about a goal, whether you use the worthy goal framework and whether you take the course or not, to go, what are the pros of me just keeping things exactly as they are? And basically they come down to, it stays pretty comfortable for me. It doesn't challenge my friends. It doesn't challenge my relationships. It doesn't challenge my bank balance. It doesn't challenge my sense of self. It really has a way of going, look, I get to have the comfort of the present moment. But then but what's the price you pay if you don't take on this worthy goal? And then you realize that there's a price to be paid, not just for you, the cost of you not stretching yourself and the cost of you not unlocking your greatness, but also there's a cost to the rest of us, our communities, around what you might bring if you're willing to step up and take on a really worthy goal.
Yeah, I like that. What you lose out by not being bold, right? Or what other people lose out, right? What I also love about that, or what I heard was, you know, the the fear of what you might lose if you commit to that goal, right?
Well, that's right. It's the fear of what you might lose, and it's also it surfaces the current commitments you have to keep people happy and to keep yourself happy, and you're going to disrupt that.
Yeah.
And there's a degree of discomfort in that for sure. There's a degree of loss in that for sure. And you're really weighing up, do the prizes outweigh the punishments, or do the punishment outweigh the prizes, depending on which way the equation goes for you. Lisa,
Exactly.
ridiculously enough, our time is almost up. And the final request for people in the comments, what was most useful or most valuable for you in this chat between Lisa and me? And actually, I'm going to ask you, Lisa, what was most useful and most valuable for you in this conversation? We all went by in a bit of a flurry, didn't it?
I think that it's the PNP. I love that, and that's echoed by Berna here. She says, or I'm not. Yes, this exercise is really powerful. Creates greater awareness. Really, if you're answering those questions, you've got a litmus test for whether it's worthy or not.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And for me, I love the phrase, the tyranny and the BS of goal setting, because it so often is like both tyrannous and underwhelming. I have a little rant in the LinkedIn Learning course. I have a rant about SMART goals. It's like it's a terrible. It sounds good, doesn't it? Because it's smart, but it's actually, for the most part, our SMART goals are not things that fill us with joy. They fill us with bureaucratic.
It's specific and measurable, and it makes you feel like an automaton. So yeah, I like status quo versus goal.
That's Fiona. Hi, Fiona. Nice to see you. I know Fiona, so it's nice to see her there.
Fiona.
Look, hey everybody, thank you for signing in for us. I hope you'll have a chance to, if you're part of the LinkedIn Learning world, and you haven't already seen Lisa's LinkedIn courses, you probably have, but check them out if you haven't. LinkedIn Learning, my new course is up, and I think it's free for anybody for the first 24 hours. So if you're wanting to kind of take a dabble in LinkedIn Learning and you've never done that before, you might want to check out my course. It's about 40 minutes, about 10 lessons, I think. And I certainly have fun filming it. I hope you'll find it useful as well. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Lisa, thank you for partnering up. We hadn't met before this, so I'm so grateful that you said yes and you plunged in.
I'm so grateful. Thank you all. Thanks for all attending.
Bye, everybody.